We have what we call this stair step to the cloud. What's in the cloud? Your brand is famous now, right? And we in the old days, you couldn't do this. If a client came to us and they had no brand search volume on Amazon, they had no brand search volume really to speak of on Google, we're like, hey, don't do Amazon right now because there's nothing. We're bottom funnel here, man. We're a sales channel. We can't do much to improve your brand or do anything. Those were the old days, but now you can actually build a brand. But we start by inverting the old advertising funnel a little bit.
There's actually some really bright opportunity despite the challenges that people are facing. It's all about just like, how long can you stay in the game? That is the key thing. Because if you can just like keep staying in the game, right? I think it's the weak brands that are going to drop off.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I actually like. I like as Amazon, like the compliance requests on Amazon are shooting through the roof now.
Yep.
I say good. Now it makes it harder for me for sure. Like now I have to jump through all of these hoops, but I say good because like it has now increased the barrier to entry. And for the other brands, the overseas brands that don't want to play by the rules, good. Then you're going to get kicked off or it's just that much harder. So I love those opportunities. So I share your exact same sentiment. It's never been more challenging, but there's never been more opportunities, especially with AI, where the technology is going and CTV, which we'll talk about. Like I love those as massive opportunities. So Jason, we started off this podcast by saying like, hey, you want to know the best PPC strategies that are working on Amazon right now?
Sure.
You and I talked about that. It's not about the PPC strategies, to be honest with you. It is having that full funnel marketing. That is where the real brands that are going to thrive over the next 3 to 5 years, that's where they're going to. So Jason, why don't you walk through and say like, okay, yeah, PPC, it's table stakes. You should just be doing it. But what else should people be doing if they're trying to market their brands on Amazon?
I love the question, Josh. We have what we call this stair step to the cloud. What's in the cloud? Your brand is famous now, right? And we in the old days, you couldn't do this. If a client came to us and they had no brand search volume on Amazon, they had no brand search volume really to speak of on Google, we're like, hey, don't do Amazon right now because there's nothing. We're bottom funnel here, man. We're a sales channel. We can't do much to improve your brand or do anything. Those were the old days, but now you can actually build a brand. But we start by inverting the old advertising funnel a little bit. We start at the very bottom and we work our way up. What's the old way? Linear TV. You're a big brand. You know, Procter & Gamble got in there when it was super cheap. And then, you know, every time they launched a product, they put a $50 million ad campaign. They poured buckets of money at the top of the funnel, knowing that a good chunk of that was just burned cash. They didn't really know who their audience was. They were dependent on, you know, some TV metrics that weren't very good. It wasn't laser targeted. And you hoped that a lot of that money trickled down to the bottom line. And it did when you're pumping $50 million to $100 million TV campaigns, right? That is the old way. And we don't have to do that. And so what they're trying to do by pumping all that money in the top is to let and identify who their customer is by the time the bottom of the funnel hits. And so as soon as Amazon started introducing CTV, DSP, we at Avenue 7 Media immediately began building our stair step to that cloud. What is it when your brand search volume is the majority of your traffic? What does that look like, right? And so what does it look like when people are walking down the street and they tell their friend about your brand? You know, what does it look like when you go to sell your company? Instead of looking at a multiple of the bottom line EBITDA, you're looking at a top line multiple of your growth of your top line, multiple of top line, right? What does that look like and how do you get there? That's the cloud. We literally start with PPC, Josh, so you're wise to bring it up. Look, we still see clients come to us and we'll do an audit for them. And we're like, gosh, you're so dependent on broad and automatic campaigns. You got keywords in here that should have been negated. You've got great long tail keywords that you should be pulling out, doing exact campaigns, putting those at top of search. So there's still table stakes that folks just aren't doing on the PPC side that will make their campaigns more efficient and tighten up that bottom funnel. We see it every day. However, the sort of this new addition announced at last year's Amazon Unbox conference is the ability to use your AMC account to layer SP campaigns on top of your audience. Now, why is that important? Josh, we don't have a single client who's the low cost leader. Every one of our brands that we work with is at least 30% more expensive than that Chinese competition that you mentioned. And I try to break it down in this way. Like let's round up and let's say there's 300 million Amazon shoppers. There's a bottom tertiary there that's never going to buy your product. Who cares? I don't want to serve an ad to them. There's a middle group that may, if the timing is right, if their budget's looking good, but that top third is the sweet spot for our brands. That's the folks like my wife who will never buy the cheapest thing because she doesn't trust it and really likes brand trust, right? And if you can present and you can justify the best quality marketing materials and shopper facing images, video, copy that speaks to why your product is more, the benefits of your product and why it's more, you will have a better conversion rate. Your ads will work better. If you can once you get to 2,000 orders plus, build open up an AMC instance and identify at that first step of the stair step who your customer is. And this is the old Facebook marketing game, right? Identify who your customer is, remove those campaigns from pitching to the bottom tertiary of those 300 million, layer it on top of your customer base, lookalike that audience, get that tight, know your customer. That's the customer's avenue that we have over here. We need to know who that customer is now more than ever on Amazon. Then you can take that, you can expand that audience with what we call bottom funnel DSP, demand side platform, display, OLV videos. We're just going to retarget. We're going to take that DSP. There are so many levers that we can pull in DSP that's so much better than sponsored display retargeting. The higher your price point, the more retargeting is going to work. We have seen at the low end of 4 ROAS on bottom funnel DSP all the way up. I saw one this morning as I was looking at my client reports, 15 ROAS. All we're doing is we're doing two things on DSP bottom funnel, competitor conquesting, and we're doing retargeting. And so those metrics are still TROAS, tacos, you could still stay there. There is a point where your business doing those two things will have a really nice growth pattern, and then you'll hit an inflection point. So then what? What do? You can go talk to you, Josh, and say, how do I do this TikTok thing? And how do I get a viral video, right? Or you can do some of the things like one of your previous guests that I can't remember his name, the guy that was doing the liver supplements. You can build your click funnels, which I'm all for. Everyone should be multi-channel in today's day and age. If you're only on Amazon, I don't recommend that. Everywhere, every shelf space that your product occupies is the equivalent of an online impression. Every time someone sees that brand, interacts with that brand, you're building to that cloud of becoming a famous brand for the next 100 years. Okay, so back to my stair step. You build your AMC instance, know who your audience is, build your avatars, make sure that your creative, now I'm talking about the creative avenue, make sure your creative is speaking to exactly who your audience is. You learn that from the AMC data. Build out your customer segments and your customer personas. Make sure when you go to your landing page, your A+, your brand store, you see those people in it. Those people need to see themselves in your product, and they will convert at a higher rate when you do that. Go up the funnel to the next step, bottom funnel DSP. Build your DSP instance, identify those audience, expand that audience, retarget the crap out of it, because you're going to go from tens of thousands to potentially hundreds of thousands, 50,000, 60,000 audience. Continue to build. Once you reach that inflection point, the next step is to go upper funnel DSP. So you're not looking at conversion metrics as much anymore. You're looking at a lot of other things, right? You're looking at, what is your traffic? Are your impressions improving? What is your new to brand count? And, our team I think, is one of the best in the business at massaging and fine tuning that audience. So we're getting in front of people who do not know our client's brand, but who look and share the exact same buying signals as every one of your existing clients. So that lookalike idea, right? We're going to look alike. We're going to expand it. We're going to get in front and introduce your brand with OOV, display, you name it, and really take up more of that market share space so that you can grow your brand. You've got to introduce new brands. There's two ways to grow your brand. Sell more shit to the people who are already your customer, or sell stuff to customers who you've never had before. You've got to introduce that NTB. So, and that's the funnel part. What we do is we try to get as many videos out there with as many different customer segments included into the videos. And we've got great partners who can either shoot videos, or if you don't have the budget for that, we can use AI to develop a bunch of videos. They're not as good a quality, but the messaging is tight. Once we identify some good video that performs well on mobile through OOV DSP, that's when it's time to go to the graduate course. This is the PhD. Now you're going to take all of that audience data. Remember, instead of burning cash at the top, we're building sales and audience from the bottom up. Now you go and you take that 100,000 users and you expand that to 1 million and 2 million and 3 million and ultimately 5 million. There's 150 million users on, and it's not just Prime anymore, Josh. It's every single channel. And the way we address it is we say, look, we're not like the old TV guys who will come in and say, hey, I got a Seinfeld episode here and your audience is in here. So let's carpet bomb all of your audience. Yeah, sure. There's going to be some of your audience that would never buy your product, but we're going to put your ad in front of them anyway. We don't do that. And in fact, we tell our clients, we don't give a shit what your audience is watching, so long as it's your audience who's watching it. And we see some crazy TV shows. Sometimes they're Spanish speaking TV shows. Sometimes it's like, I didn't even know this was a streaming channel, but we serve that great television ad. It doesn't even have to be TV quality to have results, by the way. We've had people take Facebook ads and put them on Prime. We get all of those views. They're all new to brand. We exclude anybody who already knows the brand. Why pay for that? And then once we capture that view, we dump them into a retargeting campaign. Now we got them. And they've got that hit in their unconscious that this brand is to be trusted, because there's still something that's very unconscious that builds trust when people see a brand on a television screen, even more so than on a mobile screen. Now, maybe the younger generation is different, Josh. You'd know better than I, but I still think that seeing a brand on TV makes it a real brand. And here's the best part, Josh. The strategy that I just talked to you about is cheaper than a Meta ad. Now, if you want to do Thursday Night Football, that's going to cost you, right? That's going to be very, very expensive. It's going to be like old TV money, but we don't even care about Thursday Night Football. We care about pumping your brand in front of millions of new to brand customers that have your signal so that we can capture them and retarget them across the internet. Now, let's talk about some of the outcomes. Not only do we see ROI, not only do we see sales revenue growth, that new to brand metric goes through the roof. It's hockey stick growth. We see an increase in BSR, bestseller rank. I'm talking like 100% improvement sometimes, triple digit improvement on BSR. If you have a CPG type product, we see a hockey stick growth in subscribers, which is recurring revenue. And we can even target specific subscribers who are more prone to subscribe to a product for that lower cost value, that lower price point. We see brand lift go crazy. And I'm only talking about on Amazon right now, right? We see profit margins increase in spite of, and a minimum spend for CTV, $30,000 a month. $30,000 a month. You couldn't do that for $250,000 before, right? In the old days. Now for $30,000 a month, you can turn that into $100,000 in very short order in additional revenue with new to brand customers that now you can remarket for the rest of their time that they're in that system.
Well, Jason, this has been an excellent recording. If people want to learn more about you, they want to follow you, interested in reaching out, what's the best way to do so?
I'm active on LinkedIn, Jason R. Boyce, Boyce. I'm active on X. Jason Boyce X is my handle there. And then, they could send me an email. They want to learn more about either our tech tool that we're launching, or, if we can help them with one of their avenues or all of their avenues, send me an email. It's just Jason, Jason at avenue7media.com. If I can't help them, I'll connect them with a super smart person on the Av7 team who can give them exactly what they're looking for.
Love it. All right, Jason, thanks again for your time today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Josh. Love the podcast.